Welcome to Tulsa World Opinion. Each week, we will highlight something that we either wrote this past week or will be writing in the upcoming weekend to explain a little bit about more of the editorial board's position and what we write about. So I am Ginnie Graham, the editorial's editor, and
I'm Bob Doucette. I'm an editorials writer.
And this Sunday on December 12th, we are writing an editorial about Senator Lankford joining a group of Republican lawmakers in a letter that they sent to the DoD Secretary Lloyd Adams. And in it, they expressed concern about the Pentagon's Countering Extremism Working Group. And there was a report, an ongoing, from what I understand, investigation into what's leading to extremism in our country. And to me, this brings up domestic terrorism, that we see a rise in this. It's whether it's polarization or anger, but something's radicalizing people. And the letter was couched in the criticism of this working group based on free speech or wokeness, whatever you want to call it. But I look at it differently, and I look at it as there's anger popping up in school boards. There's anger popping up at city councils that bordering on violence and danger. And that's what, when we talk about this January 6th insurrection, that's where this came from. And so this news report was written by, I want to give credit to Tulsa World reporter Randy Crable, but as an editorial board, it concerns us that our senator and other Republicans are making this a political issue when it's really about, I think, a national security issue. So, but Bob took the lead on actual writing the editorial, and he read the letter. And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts when you read the letter? What did you think of it at the time?
You know, looking at it, it's written in a way that is trying to do two things at once. It's trying to sound reasonable, as in, like, you know, we understand that there are security issues. We want you to take care of that. And then it starts going into this language of, you know, not wanting the military to be subject to adhering to leftist, woke, whatever, you know, kind of using all of these terms that are kind of big right now in the right in terms of what they're trying to fight. So the strange thing about it to me is anybody who voted for the bill in which this is authorized, they should know this. And this is something that Senator Lankford actually voted for. He approved voting for this passing the Senate, and then when then President Trump overrode or vetoed the bill, he voted to override along with the vast majority of the rest of the Senate, you know, both sides, both parties. So this isn't something that is new or caught anybody by surprise. This is something that they've known about, and they knew the Pentagon was going to be working on this because the Pentagon has been trying to combat what you call ill elements within the military ranks for a long time, whether it's organized crime, you know, gang stuff, harassment issues and things like that. These are things that they look into, and what they've seen with extremism is this is becoming a bigger problem. You know, we have 5 people who are either active military or National Guard members were among the people who were arrested and charged in January 6 riots. And you've got a bunch of other people beyond that, you know, many more people who were veterans that were involved in that. And that kind of told the Pentagon that we've got a problem here. So I think what the senators are trying to get at is they don't want this to be some kind of a big brother thing that's going against conservatives. But they're telling this to an institution, and this isn't really in our editorial, but I'll just go ahead and come out and say it. They're doing this in an institution that we know is fairly conservative by nature when you're talking about the United States military. If they're going after extremism, that's not the same thing as trying to, you know, counter conservatism. That's not what's going on. Those two are not the same things at all. So
And I think you make it, and the editorial makes a point that the vast majority of the military is not radicalized. They're not, I mean,
Right.
we're talking about, a small group. But I think the thing that came up in my mind was, 1995, the Oklahoma City bombing, all the conspirators were, the two main ones, and then their third one, they all came from the military. Not that the military caused the radicalization, but something, was targeting them. And we're seeing that in the national reporting from the insurrection is showing that it's not so much active military that is a concern, but they're finding a lot more veterans were, involved. And I think it's worth kind of bringing up, like, why, where is that pull for violence? Because we're not talking about speech. We're talking about people who will bring a gun to a government building with the intention of harm, or gun to, or a bomb at a building. So, I see that so much that, everyone, at what point, and this gets at what point is speech turn into, more than that. And I think that's what people are concerned with. But right now we're just seeing more and more violent actions that I think we have. I mean, that's why I'm backing the idea of this working group. So, and it's not just military for me. I mean, go to school boards, go to, city council meetings, and people are feeling, I don't know, a little more emboldened to, walk that line of an attack. And I think that public officials are feeling that.
Sure. And with the working group, what they're really hoping to do too is they want to nip this in the bud. They want to stop this stuff before it becomes a larger problem. So what they've seen since so far here in 2021 is not quite almost 300 instances of reports of extremism, and various actions have been taken to take a look at those things, investigate them, and so forth. But all they're really trying to do with the working group right now, it's not even so much about, we're going to come down hard on these people, or here's the things you can or cannot say. All they're trying to do is figure out a way to go across all of the branches of the military to where everyone is reporting and using the same kind of data that they're collecting on this. So it may be the data collection that some of these senators are objecting to, but the wider problem is that if you have, say in the beginning of 2021, enough people that are starting to be, like you said, emboldened to use force, or to help plan to use force, or both, what's it going to look the next time around if people are more angry? When does it start to become a more acceptable thing for people within the military to believe that, hey, we're just going to do this? And that presents a really huge problem, something that the military doesn't want any part of. The spirit of the military is one that it does not get involved in domestic politics. And it's one of those things where the military's purpose is to protect the country. So when they see this kind of activity, it's not that they're even trying to curtail what people's speech is. Like you said, they are actually after people who are radicalized. And that doesn't have to be a radicalization of, supporting this person or supporting that movement or anything else. Violent radicalism is, extremism. That's what they're trying to prevent. So to come back on this particular working group seems kind of, to me anyway, this seems more like in advance of an election year. Midterms are coming up, and everyone's starting to bark out these talking points wherever they can. Because like you said, they were doing it about the school board stuff with DOJ. This letter to the Pentagon chief is no different. Just a few different words, few different targets of, what they're trying to, who they're trying to talk to. but the message is the same. We're trying to fight wokeism. We're trying to fight socialism. We don't want this people who are against that stuff to feel like they're being silenced. And none of that is being silenced. It's more of a thing of they just don't want to see another instance where they have people who wear the uniform involved in something like what we saw on January 6th or something potentially worse like we saw in Oklahoma City.
You know, when we do these editorials, I don't know about you, but I ended up going down these rabbit holes of research that you start with a letter and you go, and I came across this, it was on a military.com article, and they were quoting a person by the name of Christopher Goldsmith, who had started this firm, Sparvarius, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But he looked at, and it's a firm that analyzes domestic attacks, domestic terrorism attacks. And one of the things he was finding is that there's certainly this element of that online algorithms that I know that we've written about before, you've written about before specifically, that veterans tend to be targeted with disinformation. So the military and veterans are not any more susceptible to disinformation, you know, to being radicalized than you or me, but it's more about how maybe they are targeted. And this particular veterans theory is that it's because they are, they have social power that people, you know, we have a great respect for our military, and people, and a lot of the military members come out and they are leaders in their community, and that they're trained. And so people who are, you know, these bad actors in our world are targeting disinformation to maybe some of our veterans. And I found that interesting, that it's beyond getting to the why. Like, why are we seeing more people wanting to harm our government? Why are we seeing people wanting to take arms up against public officials? And I just found that to be an interesting theory, and also kind of showing that, you know, for me, I just don't think it's just about the military. When I think about domestic terrorism, I think it's even broader. But if there are some trends, and this working group is finding that, then I think that's important work that I hope in an election year just doesn't get lost. So
no doubt.
Yeah. So anyway, that is coming up Sunday, and I hope everybody reads it. So thank you.